I'll try to be I'll try to be kinder. You have to understand. I mean, even with my grandparents and my parents
Right.
and all that kind of stuff, we all talk like I do in my family,
Sure.
family group. So I'm actually being nice for you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
um, so yeah, the robot, let's just say, would get aroused. There were hydraulics involved. Okay, and
So
Lorelei and I, my wife.
not much has changed then.
No, no. And my wife, she and I met when we were like, she was 12 and I was 13.
Oh my
I
God,
mean,
you guys known each
yeah,
other forever, right? Yeah.
right. So I'm 15 years old and I said, here, read this and tell me what you think. So she's like, okay, and she's all getting all into it. Then blah, she starts busting out.
See,
Anyway,
that part really struck me when I found out that Lorelai had a worse sense of humor than you.
oh yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
I was like, wow.
yeah, more irreverent than I am, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's something.
That shocked me.
Sometimes
That
we'll even look
shocked
at,
me.
yeah, sometimes we'll even look at my stuff and go like this. Yeah, I got an idea.
Mhm.
And then I was like, what? She goes, well, what if you did this and this? I'm just like, wow.
And you're like, whoa. You're like,
Seriously, Lord?
whoa.
Yeah. And I was just like, I married well.
Yeah, you married
Um,
smart.
yeah. So anyway, I started doing it then I started writing more and more and more, but I never really got far. I mean,
Right.
I would just keep doing that. And then as I got a little more mature, there's not a big
Slightly.
delta. I mean, I didn't travel far.
Right,
Uh,
right. It wasn't
but
much of a jump.
as I got a little more mature,
Right.
basically from there I started writing more and more, and then I got into the games industry, and then I had to write
Right.
design documents, and I
Now
had
you
to
have to
write
write
dialogue.
serious. Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
and so it was around year 2000 I finally started, doing more and more, and that's because Lord of the Rings came out,
Mm,
Harry Potter, all those the movies,
right,
right?
right, right.
And I was always a science fiction guy, but
Sure.
I really never got much into fantasy, to be honest with you. And then
Hmm.
finally I saw those movies and I was like, oh, I want to read some more. So I picked up books like by Steven Erikson, David Gemmell,
Oh yeah.
and of course, and then Chris Young introduced me to Robert Aspirin with the Myth Adventures
Oh sure. Yeah, yeah.
and all that. And so I started reading all that. And then Chris and I, we had met at an Aikido class.
Right.
And so we started talking about all this stuff, and we were both into sci-fi. We were both into Hitchhiker's Guide, and Robert
Right.
Aspirin did Fool's Company as well
Hmm.
as Myth Adventures,
Right.
and so on. So next thing you know, we're talking about we're going to write books,
Yeah, yeah.
and Chris was he writes basically one long paragraph over 40 pages. And I was just like, I can't read this.
Can't do this. No, it can't work. It
He has
doesn't work
great
like that.
ideas. He just, when it comes to
Right.
actually, writing the stuff, he just,
Yeah.
doesn't really flow for him very well. So, I mean, it does, but not, the craft is not there for
Not
it.
in that structure. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, we said, let's both take a class together and see what happens. So we
Mhm.
took an online class from the Gotham School of Writing.
Oh wow, like the Gotham writers. We have something here in New York, the Gotham writers. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we took that, and that's where Ononakin started from. So I wrote this short little thing called Water, which was
Right.
about these guys who this one side they drank the water and the other side didn't, and they were fighting all the time. And
Right.
whenever you were captured, they kept trying to get you to drink the water.
Right,
Because if
right.
you drank the water, it was like take the blue pill, right?
Sure, sure.
Not that blue pill.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I see where this is going.
Yeah, different blue pill altogether. At this age, okay, we're back to the blue pill, but different
Right.
reasoning.
Different one. Different one.
Yeah. So I wrote that Ononakin thing, and then never really did anything with it. And then a few years
Right.
later, I guess around 2005 or so, I said, Chris and I at this point we just said, let's just do games. We're not going to be doing this writing thing.
Right, right.
And I wrote the first book of Ononakin, called A Quest of Undoing. I wrote that, and I said to Chris, I wrote this book. Check it out. Actually, I'm sorry. Prior to writing that, which was a more serious sci-fi, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
fantasy, but I kept putting goofy stuff in it,
Right,
and I
right.
said, I gotta try to pull away from that some because it's more serious and everything else.
Yeah, step back away from it.
But I had to get that out. So then I said, okay, I'm going to write this Ononakin thing based on water. I wrote that, and then I handed it to Chris. I said, just take a look at this. Oh, I don't like wizards. I don't like magic. Blah blah blah. And I was like, why? And he says, because there's an army coming at you. A wizard steps up and goes, and they're dead. It's just dumb. And I said,
it seems like a trope in a way, right?
Yeah, they're too powerful. And I said, not in my world. Check it out. And so, like, for my wizard to have power, for example, he has to drink. And the more he drinks the booze and the more alcohol he drinks, the drunker he gets, the more powerful he gets, but the less likely he is to be able to concentrate.
But he's inebriated at this point.
Yeah.
At this point,
and so,
he's like,
Yeah. And I had so everybody has to find their power source. And so one person, they finally found theirs when they were in the middle of a duel and somebody pierced their heart. So having the piercing of a heart gave them the magic, but they
but he's going to die.
Yeah. And so Chris loved that. And then we said, yes, we're going to do this. And that's kind of where it started from. And it's funny, I had gotten multiple books into that and also another sci-fi series called, at the time, Starliner. Now it's called Church of Automation. But before I had ever heard of Terry Pratchett. Never.
Wow.
Didn't
really?
even know. Yeah, I don't think I started reading Terry Pratchett. I want to say 2011 or 12. Yeah. When I started reading him, it might have been even 2014 though. It was later.
You came to Terry much later then. You already had started writing kind of in that vein. It's amazing.
And it's more from Robert Aspirin and Monty Python.
Right.
That's really
definitely Monty Python.
Yeah. And with Platoon F, it's funny because I had written the first one, and the joke was Chris didn't want to be involved with that until it all of a sudden started selling like hotcakes. And then he's like, yeah, I'll do it. But he read it and he basically said, so this is like Build a Galactic Hero. And I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it is actually, yeah.
It's by Harry Harrison.
Yeah, Harry Harrison. The Stainless Steel Rat. Yeah.
Excuse me. And Harry Harrison actually was a major influence on Terry Pratchett. Which
there you
a lot
go.
of people
so
don't
it makes
know.
a lot of sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
A lot of people don't know that. So when you can actually look up Terry Pratchett, and I didn't know that. And there's a quote from him where he basically says, Harry Harrison was, the guy, basically. I don't know. Obviously paraphrase.
I'm reading. It's funny that you say that because I'm reading the Stainless Steel Rat now, and it's great. It's very. I could see the influence on Pratchett from Harrison's writing, the way Harrison describes things, and the way he kind of goes roundabout and then brings you to this point, and you're like, oh wow, that's like Pratchett right there. It's amazing. Yeah,
Harrison was fantastic. Not only did he write, excellent comedically, but serious stuff was incredibly good. But Build a Galactic Hero is goofier than Stainless Steel Rat. Stainless Steel Rat is still somewhat serious, but it has some.
It's still serious. Yeah.
Yeah. But Build a Galactic Hero, oh my God. What a great.
So I have to check that out.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me grab the cover to show you exactly how goofy this is.
Oh yeah.
I
is that like the original book? You got that when Harry was like writing it and he gave you the first copy?
Yeah, that's it. Actually, I found this in a used bookstore right here because Chris.
Really?
I didn't know until like book 7 of Platoon F. And Chris said, somebody said, this is like Build a Galactic Hero. And I said, I don't have any idea who that is.
Yeah, what was that? Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I said that to Chris. He goes, yeah, I told you that. And I was like, you did? He goes, it's like Build a Galactic Hero.
Right.
Yeah. And so we happened to go to the used bookstore and this was sitting face out on a shelf.
It was waiting for you, right?
It's brilliant.
I'm going to pick it up today. So
I'll
definitely pick it up today.
Totally. Yeah. Love that book. It's hilarious.
All right. Let's move on to the next question because we have quite a few. And,
okay. I'll try to be quicker.
If it's just us two, we'll just talk all day. I know us. So, all right. Your next question is, what genres do you write in and which one do you prefer? I know you have a bit of where you started, what you do, what you tried, so condense and try to let our watchers know.
Yeah, I'll just go fast. Urban fantasy,
right?
Science fiction, Arthurian.
Yeah.
I did do some cozies, which are currently unpublished, but will probably come back out again.
Cool.
I just wrote a 3 box set post-apocalyptic. I'm sorry, 3 books post-apocalyptic called 2021 Vaccine Zombies, which is a comedy. So
the vaccine.
People are like, how can you do this? I'm like, too soon, but whatever.
They don't know you well. That's the thing.
Yeah. And geez,
didn't you do something with Lorelai too, like thriller or detective or something like that?
Well, that was the cozy stuff that she and I did together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. So she and I, they were just like little novellas, little short stories. Actually, they're like 10,000 words each. Okay. But yeah, so those are the primary things. Which one do I prefer? Ooh,
yeah,
that's a challenging question.
It is. Yeah.
You know, I don't really care. To me, it's more about, I prefer writing comedy. So if I were to say, if you were to twist my arm and say you couldn't write anything else and you'll make a great living at what you choose,
right? Yeah, those two are kind of
Yeah, I would probably go with. Oh God, that's so tough. It would so either be
Platoon F Anonican.
It's tough
because you got a lot of urban fantasies.
Well, no, the Arthurian stuff is the most fun,
and
because it's outrageous. Actually, on that really quick, the Just Sargent who does my narration for Ononican and stuff like that, he and I are actually going to do the narration together of the Queen Arthur series, and it's going to be done two ways. So we're doing it live. We practiced yesterday a little bit, and Matt is the producer. He's on also, so I'm directing it. And Just is reading the majority of voices, but whenever there's like, Merlin, that'll be me. And there will also be some American stuff. And then we're going to have two versions of it. Well, three versions of it. One version will be with maybe some stupid stuff cut out because, time delays and stuff and everything.
Sure.
But other than that, raw. So that way, when we're laughing, when everything is going on,
you hear everything.
Yeah. Right. The second one will be the version with, just as you would hear it as a regular narration, except with multiple voices. And the third is a graphic audio. So it'll have sounds and everything else going on.
So you have sound effects and stuff and everything.
Yeah. So we're working on that. So to answer your question, what genre? If I had to choose, I would probably pick fantasy. Just because it's so deep and, you can go everywhere with it. And I like third person writing better than first person for me. So I would have to say fantasy.
Awesome. All right, let's move on. Plotter or pantser, or somewhere in between?
I'm much faster as a pantser, and my stories tend to not meander off the wall too much. I've gotten to that point where, I know how to craft in without having to do it.
Right.
However, what I've found recently is I start pantsing, and then I get to a certain point and I go, okay, now that I'm here.
Pull back a little bit.
I do like paragraph, sometimes not even paragraph, sometimes just like a half sentence,
A sentence, right, yeah.
Yeah, like in Lassiter, for example, right now I'm writing, it says, tow ship away. That's it, or something like that.
And you work around that, right, yeah.
Yeah, and I know what I mean, so I just continue on because I'm neck deep in the story, so I know what's going on.
Yeah, you already have you kind of have all the threads there, so you know where to go,
Yeah, first book, always pants. Second book, I pants plot. And then by the time you get to the third book, you start having to plot more.
Sure, because now you've got to take what you've already put into place and kind of direct it. Got it.
That's right.
All right, next. Any particular software to write? Like,
Vellum.
What do you prefer? Vellum?
Vellum. I write directly in Vellum. I can't stand Word. I hate it. Scrivener is really cool. The only problem I have with Scrivener is that it's just too complicated, and I have that type of mind where I will
start going
learn everything about something.
And all the rabbit holes,
Yeah, I'll just sit there for, days and days. Oh, what about this? What about that? So I have to have something that's just super straightforward, clear. And with Vellum, as soon as you're done, you just click generate. You don't have to.
Yeah, I use Vellum because you turned me on to Vellum. It's really, it's better than Word. I had Scrivener, I used Scrivener also. And I like Vellum because it's very much, this is what you do. It's for writing, get it done. And to generate the books, it's really a click and it's so fast. Yeah.
I agree.
All right, let's go. Let's move on.
Somebody asked what a pantser is. So a pantser, what that basically means is that instead of sitting down to plot every single element of your book all the way from, soup to nuts, you basically sit down and you go, okay, my character starts in Vegas. His name is Ian Dex, and he has a partner named Rachel, and they're chasing a vampire. Go.
Right. It's called pantser because you're flying by the seat of your pants. So that's where the word comes from. So it's basically just kind of almost free-forming the story. You have an idea of where you're going, but it's not like in chapter 1, this happens. In chapter 2, this happens, and so forth and so on.
And also, Chris Chrisman asked about the wrist braces.
Yeah, I was about to address that,
Yeah, so Chris, there is a metal, you can't probably see it very well, but there's a metal bar inside of these. and it's kind of bent up to go into the shape of your hand. So when I go here, it's like that. And the reason why I wear these is not because it keeps my wrist straight, but because I tend to type with my arm on the edge of the table, and that presses on your nerves. And so with the metal in place like that, I can still do that and still type and do everything else, but it doesn't press on my arm. That's why. That's
good. A good way to avoid carpal, for sure. Yeah. All right, next one. What's your process like? Do you have a word quota, or do you aim for time every day?
So my process is basically, you know how busy I am. You know how
I know.
I get constantly contacted by everybody. Plus, I'm one of the owners of ReaderLink, so you know, I code on that. I help Ben do support now and then and all that kind of junk.
Right.
So it's
so when do you make time for writing? Because you are busy.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good question.
Yeah.
I try to write every single day, and my goal is basically 3,000 words a day. Right. That's my goal. And sometimes I hit it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I blow past it. I've had days where I've written, you know, one day was 12,000 words, which was a fantastic day. But that's a rarity. So
does it melt your brain to write that much in one day, or have you kind of been okay, like you write that much and like, okay, I can go do something else, and it's not that much of a strain on my creative process? Or does it feel like I wrote 12K and now my brain is oatmeal because I've done so much?
Yeah, and also, you know, now I can't write for 3 days because I so you may as well have written 3,000 words a day.
3 days, yeah, right.
I think it depends. Usually, as I get closer in on the end of a book, or if I'm at a section of a book that just won't let go,
right, and you're in the flow, so you're just going.
Yeah, this is especially true because everything I do is character driven. So as I start writing, I don't even sometimes know what's going to happen. And so just like a reader who is
you're following the story, right? You're following the story, right?
Exactly. And you sometimes get afraid, am I going to lose this thread? And so I sit there and I'll just go and go and go.
Right.
And it depends. If things are slow on other areas of life, you know, it's not tax season. You know,
your life?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so on. Then at that point, what I tend to do is I'll write a chapter, then I'll take a break, play the guitar for like 5 minutes, and then I'll write a chapter, then I'll get up and I'll go, you know, do something else for 5-10 minutes, then I'll come back and write a chapter. And I just do this, you know, into this type of a flow. And that's what I did for that 12,000 word day. The problem is usually I'm sitting down to write a chapter and I get 3 instant messages. Can you help me with this? Can you do that? Can you do this?
Yeah.
Oh, you know, so the only way I think I could get past it would be if I got up like you used to at like 4 a.m. And I tried that for a while. And what ends up happening is I go to sleep at 2 a.m.
Your brain just goes, we're going to sleep now.
Yeah, I actually have had it where I'm like in the middle of typing. I was like,
and you're like, you'll start doing this. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. And thank you for being gracious and answering these questions.
Sure.
It's awesome, man.
Appreciate that.
All right. Are you a full-time author?
I am.
Yes.
That was quick.
Was it difficult for you to make the transition to full-time author?
No, I can tell this story now.
Yeah, right.
No, because I was working for America Online for 18 years, I think, almost.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was 18, maybe it was 19 years. And excuse me, we were getting to the point where Yahoo was getting involved and they were buying Yahoo or something. And anyway, so what ends up happening is over the course of that last year, I kept asking for projects and nobody had any friggin' projects.
Wow.
And then we would have these daily meetings and they would say, what are you doing, John? And you feel like, well, I'm working on this, and this. And you feel on the spot. Because there's all these people in there, and like the VP comes in and all this kind of crap, you know.
Like, what are you doing? What are you working on?
Doing? Yeah, and you're like, and I worked remotely. I was here, you know.
Right.
And so eventually, I got to the point where we're in those meetings, and I just said, nothing. Nobody has given me anything to do. And this was like, you know, I don't know, probably around April or July, something like, or June or something like that.
Right.
And they're like, what? Nothing to do. And I was like, yeah. I got nothing to do. I've been asking my boss for stuff to do, and I got nothing.
Nothing. Right.
And every day
to
I
the
would
beach.
ask.
That's what I'm doing now.
I'm like, I don't. It's not like I don't want to do my job, but you got to give me something to do.
You got to give me something to do, right? Exactly.
Yeah. And so anyway, they're like, and so my boss actually says, well, if that's the case, why don't you resign? I said, after 19 years, and I know you're going to lay me off at the end of the year, I don't think so.
How about you give me a severance package? And
Why would I resign? I know I'm getting a severance package.
Yeah, that's not going to make any sense.
Yeah. And so he says, so the next day, well, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? What are you doing now? And I just said, you know, I am willing to work anytime you guys need me to. And I started really thinking about this. Over those 19 years, there'd been many times where I had to cancel vacations and go to New York to sit through a week of meetings.
Oh, yeah, because they were headquartered in New York. That's right. Yeah.
Well, they have multiple, but yes, that was one of the ones. I 3 times I had to cancel my vacation to go to New York and to do that, right? And multiple. How many times did you work until 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning?
Crazy hours, yeah.
Programming for them, or all weekend long, everything else. And over the 19 years, I probably amassed like 6 months to a year.
Yeah, many days
of hours,
of work.
Right?
Yeah,
exactly, and such. So finally, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to start writing. And so, I mean, I was already writing before, but it was during my own time. So I was just like, I'm just going to start writing.
Yeah, because when we met, you were still AOL. So you were still writing. Yeah,
I was still
writing. You were writing. So, you were fitting the writing into work. I remember you were kind of about to transition, but you were still doing both. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and I have to say, it's nice to get that constant paycheck.
Well, there's a certain security to it, right? Like,
oh yeah.
People don't understand, I guess, in general, like when you become an author or a creative of any sort, that security is no longer a present factor in your life. Like you're really like, I gotta get things done because this is how, I get to pay my bills and buy food and things like that.
You don't have insurance anymore unless you pay for it.
Unless you pay for it. Everything is unless you pay for it at this point.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then you go like this, maybe I shouldn't try to do so well because if I do well, then I can't get subsidies for insurance. And so,
it's this weird tightrope you're walking. Yeah.
It is because as soon as you do well enough, now you got to pay for insurance. And it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. It's not.
Yeah.
No.
So it is pretty scary. So this happened in 2017, December 15th, and I got laid off. And fortunately, I had been there a long time. So and also fortunately, because it was part of a merger situation that they had done all this kind of stuff, the SEC steps in and says you have to pay severance.
Yeah, you got to take care of all the people, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was kind of a perfect storm for me. I got very lucky with that. And so which basically helped to fund the takeoff of the business.
Right. Kind of kickstarted you into really being able to go full time. Right.
Yeah. And also allowed me to, kickstart into reader links and really making that a big thing too. And so, I mean, altogether, it's been since December 15th, and we're all in that room, and I felt bad. I couldn't help it though, because I'm on this big ass screen in this room, right?
Right.
I'm remote, and I'm on this screen. It's like huge.
Yeah.
And everybody else is sitting around the conference table, and they're all like,
and you're like,
yes. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry you guys did prepare. I was sitting there really working my butt off preparing for this.
Well, but also you had put in 19 years. I mean, it wasn't like, you had put the time in. So it was a matter of being able to see ahead and say, this is going to happen. I got to get ready.
Yeah. And that's life as an author right there. We talk about these things all the time. What it comes down to is being an author. People think I write a book and I put it out. Next thing you know, it will be fantastic.
Yeah. That was my fantasy on book 1 of The Spiritual Warriors. I'm going to write this. I'm going to put it out there and just sit back and wait for the money to roll in.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think so.
It didn't.
Not at all.
The money rolled out.
It rolled way out for years. I was like,
this is a hard business. I didn't start making money in this business. My first book published was 2013, and I didn't actually start making money until
5 years
2017.
Later,
and it was not enough.
No, not to cover the 4 years of expenses. Sure.
Yeah. Right. And then 2018 is when I started, saying, okay, now I can actually, make this transition. But I had to work ridiculous hours. And I mean, it's funny. One of the developers on ReaderLinks who used to work with me at AOL, and Ben used to work with me at AOL too.
Sure.
He said, so what'd you do this weekend? I said, first off, you have to understand, I don't have the
term
weekend means
there are no weekends. That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Day. That's all I know.
Yeah,
day.
like what's today? Okay, this is the day. Okay, yeah. There's no weekend.
No. It's like, what is the weekend? It means the end of a week. There is no such thing.
It doesn't end.
Yeah. But hey, we love what we do. And so the way I see it is I actually, on the days where I'm like, you have to take time away from this, I kind of sit there and I just keep eyeing the computer.
No, that's the day you get ideas. That's the day you're like, oh, I was thinking about this plot issue. Okay, now that's perfect. It'll fit right in there. You're like, oh, no. I'm not doing this today. Right.
Keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes.
I go like this. Next thing you know, Laurel's grabbing my collar, pulling me back. It won't take long, I promise. You ever heard that?
No. This is quick. I just got to put this in. Yeah.
Exactly.
3 hours. 3 hours later.
It was quick. She's like,
It's so true. All right, next question. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, here you go. You ready? What mistake did you make when you first started out, and what did you get right?
So we'll start with I'll go into the first mistake that I made was thinking that my craft was good enough.
Right.
That I had it down, and then I knew.
I think we all start that way, because I thought I had it down with Spiritual Warriors, and I was like, no, not at all.
And then you find out, usually the hard way, that you do not have it down.
Well, I found out with Lorelei. She looked at my book. It's like, this needs a full edit. I was like, what are you talking about? I know how to read. I must know how to write. What's the, it's like apples, it's easy. Come on. No,
it's not. And it's funny. It's like, I'll get, I'll get folks write and say, I wrote this thing and I think it's great. And, let me know what you think. And I look at it and I go, the story is it's not that they're bad stories. It's there. Right. I remember it. I remember being in that position.
Sure.
And going, okay, your craft is off. And you need to have craft help, which is 99.9% of the time.
Pretty much, the situation,
And so, I say, check out the Gotham Writing School, check out, the following book series, check out, whatever. And, there are also people who actually teach it and stuff like that. Right. And it's one of those things where you're still going to have your, idiosyncrasies of things that you screw up every time. It's part of you. It's part of your voice. It's just the way it is. You're never going to get past that, because if you try, this is something.
It won't be you.
Well, not only that, but it'll slow you down so much that you won't have the flow of writing.
Yeah, you'll lose the story. Right.
Yeah. And so there's things that.
In here.
What's that?
My apologies to the mob for all my comma omissions, because that's what you just described is me with commas and things like that, because I'm writing so fast that if I were to stop and say, okay, a comma goes here, a comma goes there, I would lose the momentum of the story.
Absolutely.
And so it would change how I'm writing, because I'm stopping now. Oh, there's a comma go here, or things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that we as authors do screw up is commas, because we're writing so fast, or we go back and go, let me tweak that real quick, but you forgot to tweak the comma too.
Right, exactly.
We also use a lot of homonyms. And such.
There and things like that. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And stuff like that. So my biggest mistake was thinking I knew what was going on. I had it down. And what I did was I sent my manuscript to this place. You sent yours to Lauralee. I sent mine to this place called the editorial department, and this was for Starliner. And they basically wrote back and said, yeah, you should just, make sure you keep your programming chops up. You're going to need those. Yeah. And I stopped writing for 3 years.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. I literally stopped writing for 3 years because it was so shredded that when I got it back, I was just like, well, I guess I'll just be a programmer.
I'm done. And, I think that's you make a really good point there, that you have to be really careful as a beginning writer who you show that early work to. Because you lost 3 years there, because what they said set you back to the point where you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And you lost 3 years in that time. And I think as writers, especially those who are starting out, you have to be really selective about who you let see that early work.
Yeah. And this is interesting because I had grown an incredibly thick skin being in the games industry.
Sure, yeah.
So, I mean, taking criticism was not a problem.
That was normal for you,
however,
right?
when I saw this, it wasn't a case of, oh, my dreams are crushed and I'm dashed and I'm just blah, blah, so sad. It really wasn't that. It was just a case of, okay, this isn't my thing. And I moved on.
I'm going to move on and do something else. Right.
Yeah. But then I came back and I happened to just pick it up. I saw the manuscript. At this point, it was a big slug of paper, and I saw it and I just started reading it. And I was like, screw those guys. This is funny.
Right.
This is fun. Yeah, it needs some touch-ups and everything else, but this is fun. So what I did was I started studying other authors that I liked. And I started reading what their cadence was. How do they do dialogue tags? How do they do? And I started really paying attention to it, studying their craft. Right. And then I rewrote Starliner, and I rewrote it 17 times, by the way. Oof, I rewrote Starliner over and over and over again, going, okay, what are they doing with their dialogue tags? How's that work? Okay, I'm not doing that here. And then I would sit there and I'd change it out and I'd read it, not using their words, using my own words. I wasn't plagiarizing. I'm just, I was looking at format. And then I would look at theirs, and then I would look at another author, and I would just like this. I'm seeing, consistencies between them.
Right, similarities, right.
Yeah. And so I would see that. And then I'd say, let me try to make it so my consistencies showed through similarly. Sure. And now, to be fair, over the course of those years, after I figured most of that out, I then learned another thing. Once you have your voice and once you figured out, because it's not just craft, it's voice. Right. Yeah. I didn't take their voices. I used my own. But it's once you figure out your voice, you do not read any more books on how to write. Yeah.
I was going to say that those 17 rewrites was almost a process of you discovering your voice. And then once you discovered it, you already had the components there. Yep. But through those 17 rewrites, all those rewrites, you ended up really honing and refining and finding your voice. Yeah. And then once you get there, you don't want to mess with that anymore.
Yeah. I think I almost more refined my craft more than anything else. Okay. Because if you read the Church of Automation now, if you read that book, it is my voice, so you can hear that. I think I found my voice back in the games industry, really. But if you hear that, you can see it's my voice. But it's also a lot more descriptive. It's a lot heavier. It's a large book. It's all those types of things. But and the comedy is not as direct or advanced, I should say, as let's say Ian Dex. Or chapter 34.
Chapter 34. Geez.
Yeah, it's not like that.
Right.
It's not like Ononakin type of humor, but it was the craft. Over 17 times, I mean, it was just repetition. And think of it this way, playing the guitar, I didn't pick it up one day and just go, oh.
Right, you have to practice and practice and practice.
It takes forever. And martial
years,
arts, it takes forever.
That's lifelong, so it doesn't,
Yeah.
It never ends.
If you really want to work on your craft, and you're really good at mimicking, what you want to do is you want to find authors that you really respect and you love the way their stories flow and study it. But I warn you, the moment you do that, the very next book you go to pick up, you're not going to enjoy it as much because you're going to be studying the craft more than you're going to be enjoying the story.
You know what I've also found with that also is watching movies too, because once you learn story structure, you start having, I want to say you just have less tolerance for bad stories because you start seeing how they're set up. And then all of a sudden you're like, no, I don't have enough time in my life for this. I'm going to go to sleep. And the same thing with books too. It's like, you're like, so my policy, and I was telling the mob this, I'll give a new author up until the first chapter. So I'll do, my breakdown is first sentence, first paragraph, first chapter. If you don't have me by the first chapter, I really can't finish the book. I can't, because the way my brain works now is like, I would have written it this way, I've written it that. I don't get lost in the story anymore if it doesn't hook me. So if it doesn't get me by the first chapter, I'm like, okay, I'm moving on, But that's a direct result of writing. When you write, you get to that point where it's like, you kind of see the working behind the scenes, and you're like, you could have done this, but this could have been done better, And you lose that kind of like immersion into the story unless it's well written.
That's true. It's true. And you know, on that front, if you start reading and you can see like it's just one long paragraph, I can't read that.
Yeah, I'm done.
If the craft is obviously really, really bad, I can't do it. Just because it's too much of an investment to try to weed through the story.
Sure,
that's a good way to look at it. You want to see the garden of the story, but if there are weeds 10 feet tall, you can't even.
It's hard. You can't even see it. Yeah.
So you have to work on that craft. It's not storytelling is key, obviously. I mean,
sure,
you can have the best craft in the world, but if you can't tell a story to save your life, who cares?
Right. Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's not to say, well, I'm a good storyteller. That's all I care about. Yeah, but your story's never going to be heard or read if your craft is crap. You have to work on it.
It has to be both. So, it has to be both.
Yeah, that was a long answer to that question. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're moving on.
Oh, what did I get right? Sorry.
Yeah. What did you get right? Yeah, I was going to say. What did you get right?
Was learning that my story is my story. It's not the community story. It's not the reader's story. Sorry, it's not. Yeah. It's my story, and as any author, it's your story.
Yes.
And so you're going to get people. I've had people write to me about Ononikin saying, you need to change your character names, this whiz fiddle thing and this and that. That just is not going to work, and so on and so forth. And I just, you know, people don't use names like that. I said, have you read Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, like really?
I mean, you know, I don't think
Bilbo. Come on.
I met another Gimli. I don't know about you.
Frodo, Bilbo, really?
Anyway, but I was just like, you know, okay, whatever, dude. And then, you know, I've had people who told me, like, in the Pixies don't talk like that. I got an actual person that said Pixies don't talk like that. I said, how many have you met? Well, actually what I said was really dirty. And I responded back very, because this person wasn't kind about it. They were a total jerk. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Total jerk. I posted it in my group. They were a total jerk. So I ended up, I usually respond nicely, but this person pushed me, and I was just like, all right. So I responded not so nicely.
Yeah, and, I've had instances like that where people would say, Simon would never say that. I'm like, huh?
How do you know?
How would you know?
Simon lives in here.
Yeah, right. How would you know what he would or wouldn't say? And I get also that your readers will appropriate your characters as their own, and that's a good thing. But some do go a little far and try to tell the author, no, that's not how this story works.
Yeah.
And
like, yes,
not so much. Yeah.
And again, this is not to be, it's not to be a snob. It's look, the stories live in here. And the characters live in here. So the characters will do what the characters do. And here's the thing. We as authors, a lot of times, will sit there and we'll go, I want you to go this way. I mean, I've told this story before.
Like, I don't think so.
Yeah, I told the story before about Whiz Fiddle. I told him I wanted him to go down an alley. He says he's not going down this alley. Right. And how I know that was no words were coming out, and they were flowing.
Doesn't flow. It doesn't flow.
And so finally, I just kind of closed my eyes, and I'm sitting here going like this. I need you to go down this alley, and I'm just letting the dialogue play back through. Nope, not going down that alley. Why not? Would you go down that alley? Well, no, but I need you to go down that alley. It's part of the thing. And he's just like this, not going down that alley. And I was just like, look, I'm God. Yeah. I'm the one who's controlling everything.
You're going down this alley.
You're going down that alley. And he goes, I don't believe in you. So I had an atheist character, and I was like, yeah. So
while
he didn't go down the alley.
Imagine while he's having the conversation with you, I don't believe it.
Yeah. So I tell my wife this story. She says, you really need to take all of the pills, not just the pretty ones.
Not just the ones you want. Don't be selective. All right, next question. We can really spend all day doing this, you know, right? Okay. What is your advice to authors who are about to embark on this? You know the old saying, if anyone wants to be a writer, shoot them now and save them the trouble. But what advice do you give to people? I don't like to say aspiring because it puts a weird kind of tag on people, like they need to be published to be a writer. Yeah. You start writing, you're a writer. So what advice do you have for new authors? So for new people, they're writing, they want to get into it, and this is what I want to do. What advice do you have for that?
Work on your craft. That is number one thing. If you work on your craft, because what that does to you is it teaches you how important it is to understand how word painting, descriptions, dialogue tags, flow, cadence, plotting, points, the different, journeys, the hero's journey. If you go through Joseph Campbell's method, there's like 20 of them, snowflake journeys, all of these different things, multiple acts, everything else. Really, really understand the craft, because if you think of it this way, we'll go back to the guitar analogy. If you sat down and you said, I want to be in a band, well, the first thing you're going to have to do is learn how to play the guitar, assuming that's the instrument of choice. So you're not going to be able to say, I want to be in a band, and so you just show up one day with your guitar. I want to be in this band. Now, I'm not saying that that's not happened in the past, but the reality is I want to be in a band because I want to be up on stage, and then I want to be up in front of 20,000 people, and I want to tour the world and have like a big record deal or whatever, right? Let's just say. It starts with picking up the guitar, learning the basic scale.
You got to know how to play, right?
Chords, everything else, learning, and so on. That means your fingers are going to hurt. That means
get callous,
it's going to hurt. Your neck is going to hurt from holding the guitar. Your back is going to hurt. And you're not going to be sitting there playing. And let's say you want to play, advanced music, something like Dream Theater or whatever. You're not doing that without a heck of a lot of practice. Sure. And so you're looking 6-8 hours a day for a year. And that's if you stick with it like crazy and you really work hard and everything else. Then you go, okay, I've got my chops down. Now you've got to get your sound down right. You've got to have your speaker, your distortions, your everything else that you have to go in with that, all that to get your tone. Yeah. Right. And it's easier today because of all of the, effects processors.
Yeah, the technology. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So then you get that, and then you go, okay, now I've got that. Now I need to find the right people to work with. My point is, you have to start though here with your craft. You have to start with your craft. You have to be able to do all of those things that we talked about originally. Once you've got your craft down, you're now able to take the next step. The next step is a different question, but the advice to new authors, make sure you got that craft down. Now, let's just say you've already got the craft down. You've really worked that out. You've worked hard on it. You're good there. Then the next thing that I would say is think long term. Don't think today. So in other words, I just finished my book. I'm putting it out there. You're not thinking right, because the majority of people out there, they'll read their one book and there's like, where's the next one?
Where's the next one?
Yeah. How many people that you release a book and they say, 2 hours later, I read it.
That was great. Okay, when's the next one? You're like, I just published this one. Yeah.
Right. You tend not to see a great deal of success, depending on genre. I will say that, and depending on how lucky you are. I'll say that too. You don't see a great deal of success until you start really releasing a good number of books.
Yes.
Because it's not really the first book. The first book brings people in, yes. Yeah, but it's the fifth book where you start making the income.
Yeah, you gotta have more than one book. It helps. I mean, unless you're Hugh Howey and things like that, where you can get really lucky. Because those are very, doesn't happen all the time.
But when did he start?
Yeah, exactly. He's an overnight success with 10 years in the making.
Right, exactly. And then, it's the same thing as this. Yeah, and if I'd have bought Bitcoin in 1998, or whatever, then
you'd be a millionaire right now.
You're a millionaire right now. But if I go like, I'm going to get into it now. Oh.
With that one.
You're not going to work as well.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you guys, those of you who are aspiring, who want to get into this world of writing and being an author, work on that craft first and get that down where it's, you get it sharp, and then build on that. Yes, it's interesting you say that, because like if I say the word Santana, you already know the guitar sound. Like I say Carlos Santana, you don't even have to think, because he took years and years and years to hone that sound, and you just know, boom, I know what Carlos Santana sounds like. Things like that.
Van Halen.
And Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, I mean, things like that. Yep. You don't have to think about it. All right, next question. Boom. All right, you're one of the creators of Reader-Links. Can you tell us more about the program service?
Sure. So basically, it started because I'm a programmer, and I was finding it to be a pain in the butt to have to create links on Bitly, and then try to keep track of them all, because you have links for your newsletter, for your Facebook post, for your Facebook ad, for your emails, for
everything. Yeah.
You have tons for your website, whatever. Right. So you have a whole bunch of them. And so the first thing that happened, I said, let me try something else here. So I found BookLinker, and it was a little better, but still trying to keep track of everything was kind of a pain. Right. So I said, wouldn't it be nice if I could, give like a book name and then have all of the links under it. So then I could just say, Quest of Undoing, choose that, and then I would see 10 links.
Right.
That's pretty much it. And so then I said, well, that's nice, but then everything goes to Amazon.com. What if a person's in the UK? So then I found this other program out there that's called MaxMind, and they had free IP databases.
Sure.
So then I was like, okay, well, what if I had this link, and then I could find the IP address of the person clicking in, and I can't get any other information. I just know their IP address. And then from there, I can say, what country is this person in? Oh, they're in the UK. Okay, then send them to .co.uk instead of .com. And so I did that, and I shared it with you, and I shared it with Shane and Ben and, a few other people. And so you guys had access to it, and we were all using it. And then I said, and then we were all like, we were trying to do Twitter. And I was like, God, doing this is a pain. So I started coding Twitter stuff, and
which is really, really useful.
Which became useful, right? And so I shared that with you and Shane and Ben and so on. And then those went out. You guys started using that too, and then blah blah, and then the reader team stuff,
right?
And so finally,
that I'm gonna just let me interrupt you. That is like the core of that program. I know you have the links and all that. But to do a reader team through Facebook or Google Docs or anything like that does not compare to using reader links for that, because reader links, it streamlines the process to such a degree that it's just efficient. And I get the notes, and it's amazing. So yeah, that made a big difference.
Cool. Yeah. So anyway, what happened was Ben came to me and was like, dude, can you make this into an actual service? I mean, we could do this and that. And I said, my problem is I don't like doing customer service.
Right.
And as an author, you don't really have to do that. You interface with readers, but that's different.
That's different.
Yeah. So doing customer service is not one of my favorite things, because
that's troubleshooting, right? Troubleshooting
for 2 years at GE. I won't do that again.
Did you turn it on, turn it off again? Let's go.
Yeah. So I said to Ben, I said, if you do tech support, and he was like, I'll do tech support. And I was like, if you ghost me, I will hunt you down and kill you. And he was just like, okay, I know, I promise I won't. I said, okay. And so here we are 4 years later, I think.
Yeah, it's been 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've had it running for almost 6, but but that's been hidden. But it's been live, I think, for 3 or 4 years, something like that. And and now we have another developer on it, which was the guy from AOL. He's not an author, and such. So he does a lot of that. And now we have, the ability to see what your KEMP sales are, how your ads are doing, how you're, for both AMS and Facebook, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it started out because I'm a programmer and I'm an author, and I was trying to solve my own problems. And then I started solving, helping to solve your problems with you and Shane and Ben and Eric.
Excellent.
That's it.
Awesome. All right, here we go. These are the mob questions. Are you ready? So this is like a lightning round. You ready?
Let's go.
All right, here we go. Mob question, boxers or briefs? You can tell the difference in questions now.
Or the boxer briefs, actually.
Yeah, or boxer briefs.
Hey, at least they didn't say commando.
I was expecting commando. All right.
I was really excited for this call.
No, okay. These are all mob questions. What's the one thing that scares you?
The ocean.
The ocean?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, here we go. What is your favorite season?
I'm gonna go with fall.
It's like, I don't know what season that is.
Well, because I love snow, but not Texas snow.
that's not snow. That's a curse. That's like, I don't know what the hell.
My kid says, this is like watching The Day After Tomorrow, that movie. And I was just like,
basically.
I said, so like a really bad movie? And she says, oh, hey, I happen to love the idea of Dennis Quaid coming to save me and everything else. I said, hey, who can blame you? I mean, the guy walked from D.C. to New York in 20 feet of snow in less than a day.
I think he lost like one of his team members too or something. He's like,
don't going.
I'm good. All right, fall. Okay, what do you consider to be the best or worst UF trope?
I have no idea.
You're right, UF. Let's go.
No, it's
Easy
not
question.
that. I like, see, because I make fun of everything. So for me, they're all great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because, well, the goofier something is, the greater. I guess it would be the whole, I think it's silly about, you have to put the wooden stake through the heart concept.
Right, yeah.
Cut off a dude's head. Yeah. And then the other thing that I like, actually, and I make fun of it, is the immortal. Yes.
Right.
Oh, immortal, I can, live forever. No, actually, you can, yes. But if
technically, unless something kills you.
Head, right? If I cut off your head, you'll still be alive. But then I stick you in a crate, wrap it in chains, and drop you in the middle of the ocean.
You're alive.
You're alive forever inside of a little crate.
There you go. Bye. Awesome. All right, here we go. Next one. Do you prefer to write novels or novellas? Or short stories? That's,
I don't like, I like it all, but I guess I would have to say novels.
Novels? Okay, cool. Will you do any more collaborations in the future? I'm sure there are a few authors out there you'd like to collaborate with. Are there? Or
so, I mean, I always collaborate with Chris.
Right.
He doesn't really do the writing or anything else. We just kind of talk ideas and stuff.
The brainstorming, right?
Yeah, exactly, which is fun. We have a good time. And I am continuing to collaborate with Noah.
Right.
So we're actually working on something.
You guys are working on a project, right?
Yep, we're working on stuff together. Never say never. The biggest thing is, as you know, I'm a control freak, and and so boy, you didn't even hesitate. And so yeah.
Hey, hello, our first conversation. Shall we go over it real quick? That's the next. No, you know what? That's the next question. We'll go to that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm good. No,
okay.
Do any more collaborations in the future other than with Noah?
Right.
Maybe with you, because we were talking about, the one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd still love to do that. Just time,
Time. Yeah.
I think it comes down to that because, like I said, I'm a control freak, and so anybody writing in my world, I'm super, super picky. And
I think you have to be, in a way, because it's the world you created, and so it's really important that the integrity of the world you made remains in the story, even though someone else is writing in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and not only that, when you're working with multiple authors, you got to make sure they don't step on each other's toes, or that this one person doesn't introduce, hey, guess what? Dragons don't just blow fire; they also blow molten lava. Or
exactly.
Whatever. And then this other guy says,
"Since when?" Yeah.
And this other guy says, hey, good thing dragons can't blow molten lava. It's like, crap.
You're like, oh no.
But I think that's why I get super picky, is just because I want to make sure the integrity of the world. It's not that I get picky about, what is the story thing. I mean, I think you recognize that we just had fun.
Oh yeah, we were just our brainstorming sessions were just basically
Yeah.
We were laughing the whole time.
Right. And then when you would go right,
we got to the store. Yeah.
Yeah. When you would bring stuff back, I would be like, this is great. I'm enjoying this whole thing right here. But this one problem, we can't do this.
And then, okay, let's adjust that. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I mean by picky, but you have to read all of it. So imagine reading for yourself plus
4 or 5 different
other 4 authors.
Yeah.
And you're trying to keep it all together. And you've got 5 books each. And and you're trying to run reader links and all that kind of stuff, and so it burned me out horribly, and that's why I say I'm unlikely to do a lot of
collaborations,
but never say never.
That makes sense. Yeah. All right, this has a typo, but what is your favorite story? Is what the word that's missing. What is your favorite story about each other? I'm gonna go first. So when I first met John, we actually met John. So Lorelai, his wife, did my editing. She doesn't do editing anymore. So she introduced me to John. She's like, John, you got to meet this guy. He looks like he's this author. He's doing, he looks like he's really, doing stuff. He's really into it. John says, okay, here's how it's going to go. So we meet online. Here's how it's going to go. I'm going to help you. You're going to do what I got to say. And if you don't want to, if you're not going to do exactly what I say, we're done. I'm like,
3 strikes.
Nice to meet you. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I remember that because I remember looking at you. It's like this. Hi, I'm John. I'm Orlando. Here's how it's going to work.
And I was like, huh?
I know. It was a terrible, she picked the worst day for this.
I realized.
No, I literally I had been working with 5 separate authors at that point, and they were all blaming me for the fact that they weren't doing what I said. And I was just like, I'm like,
you were like done.
You know, if somebody hands you a calculator and you go, this calculator doesn't work, that's because you didn't take it. You know,
exactly.
you have to do this.
You gotta,
anyway, so
right, you gotta, yeah.
Oh, it was horrible. And so I was like, I'm done with authors. Screw this. I am absolutely out of this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not helping.
She's like, oh,
these
I have an author
bastards. Yeah, these ungrateful bastards. And they're just like, hi. I'm like, what?
What?
And she's like, so I have this guy. He's the nicest guy. And I was just like, I don't care. And she's like, and so on, and everything else. I was like, no, he's not the nicest guy. He's a jerk just like everybody else, right? And she goes, please, for me. And I'm just like, and so I remember getting on the call. Hi, I'm John. Hi, I'm Orlando. Great.
Like,
here's how it's going to work. But you were great. And you know, that's the thing. You kind of redeemed that.
Yeah,
because you're great. And then Shane came along.
Right. Yeah.
And he was great. He listened. He paid attention.
Yeah, Eric came along, and then
Eric came along, and then Ben came along and sort of paid attention. But no, Ben was there for the whole time.
Ben, we were like, you know, come on, Ben, you got to do it this way. You know, we all kind of helped him. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's yeah, there's that. So what is my favorite book from you? Well, for me, it was Tomb Yards and Butterflies.
Yeah, I remember. So let me tell a little bit of the story of that. So I'm in the middle of Sepia Blue, which I'm in the middle of now because I'm writing book 4. And I'm in the middle of Sepia Blue, and we're getting into the whole writing stories, and I write this kind of like a treatment, I guess, or the first chapter. And I say, okay, I got this story, and I show it to you guys, you, Ben, I think it was Eric there, maybe Shane was there. And I said, you know, what do you guys think? And so it was the initial treatment of Tomb Yards and Butterflies, right? And then you were like, this is, you got to stop whatever it is you're doing over there, write this now. It's like, but I'm in the middle of a series and I've got to, and like, no, write this right now.
You found your voice right there.
Yeah, that's where Tomb Yards started. That's where.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It was like I had read the other stuff and I liked it. It wasn't that I didn't like your other stuff, but I didn't hear a voice. I at first, you know, and now you've gone back and you've polished a lot of it. I know, but then I didn't really hear a voice. And when you handed this over, and I read through the first thing, I didn't even get 2 pages in. Right. I mean, it wasn't. I didn't get far at all. And I was just like, dude, stop what you're doing right now. This is what you need to write.
Yeah, I remember distinctly, like, you need to stop whatever it is you're doing.
No, but I got to finish this first. No, you don't. You need to stop what you're doing. And remember, we had a 3-strike rule. And it was like one of those things where I was just like, don't make me say strike 1, dude. You need to write this now. And
now.
Like, stop what you're doing. And you're like, really? Because it's just kind of an idea, which is the best time because this is your voice. And so you sat down and wrote that whole thing. And now here you are with how many readers and how many people in the mob and everything else, because that story found your voice. As soon as you found your voice, then you were able to go back. And now your sepia stuff and Warriors of the Way is starting to fill in with your voice.
Very different. So if you guys wanted to know where Monty and Strong really started, you're looking at the guy who kind of kickstarted it all. So there you go.
Oh, you did it. But I just kicked you in the butt and said, you have to do this.
All right, next question. Which do you prefer, urban fantasy or sci-fi or your I didn't put Arthurian there, but I know you write Arthurian too.
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi? Mm-hmm. Is that because you had a lot of sci-fi influences? Like, were you like Asimov when you were younger and things like that? Because I know I had Frank Herbert, Asimov, Heinlein. I had like all the sci-fi masters. I didn't start deviating from sci-fi until I got into Bradbury and Tolkien. But I was really like Asimov, Foundation.
Oh, yeah. Foundation, the Mule. Oh,
my God. Yeah.
Robots and dogs. Right, it's definitely sci-fi. But it's a loaded question. It's kind of like if I was on a desert island and I had to choose between sci-fi and urban fantasy, I'm gonna take sci-fi.
Right.
But the reality is, it's not. I love all genres, especially. I really love fantasy too.
Me too. Yeah.
But fantasy can be difficult. Actually, any of this can be difficult.
Sure.
I have to have palate cleansers in there.
Right.
So, you read Steven Erikson, Dead House Gates or Gardens of the Moon. That's hard to.
It's a tough read. Yeah, you need something that's gonna like
David Gemmell.
Like reset you. Yeah, you really do. Because
something in the middle.
Like Stephen Donaldson's another one that I read.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, okay, this is profound. And
yeah.
I need to read something else after that, because it's like,
it's too much.
Oh my God. It was just, I mean, it's masterful work, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I need to take a break after this, because wow. Yeah.
Here's the thing. That's also when I realized I can't write that.
Yeah, well, we were discussing this before. We're pulp writers. I mean,
absolutely. I totally agree. Writing something like that would take me 3 years.
Yeah, that's it
would be really hard to do. And I think I would loathe going to sit at my desk. Reading it though is incredible until you're done, and then I'm just like, oh my God, that was exhausting.
Just wiped out,
yeah. And then you look at the next book, which is also that thick, and you're just like,
oh, okay.
So I would pick like little things in between. Like T.H. Lane had a whole bunch of AD&D books, or it might have been D&D books. And then you had David Gemmell, which I thought were great, but they were just adventure books more than anything else. So stuff like that. But push comes to shove, I would have to say sci-fi.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to put up your link here where people can find your stuff. Cool. And we're near the end, so let's see if the mob has any questions for you. This is the time to ask. We got about 10 minutes. And let's see if there are any questions that we have from the mob.
Cool.
Thank you for being here, John. It's awesome for our first Mob TV interview.
Yeah.
So I don't see any.
By the way, I want to point out to everybody else, you had pointed out something about Tumors and Butterfly. So it was, Orlando and Ben and Eric and Shane who got me to write Ian Dex.
We pushed you to jump into the urban fantasy world. Yeah.
Right. And I have this thing about 17, iterations of a book before I give up or something like that. Because I did it with Starliner, it did take 17. And interestingly, the merging took 17. But
wow. 17, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, because 17 starts, not forward.
Yeah, not 17 books, but like almost 17 versions.
Yeah, and so it was a case where I said, okay, 17 starts, and I just came back to you guys. I said, guys, urban fantasy is cool. I just can't do it.
Right.
And you're like, why not? And I'm like, it just seems so serious and all this.
You were trying to write it like serious urban fantasy.
Because that's what I thought.
Write it like you.
I had read urban fantasy prior to that.
Right.
And so I went and I tried to read. I was reading what you wrote.
Yeah.
And I was reading what these other. No, actually, at the time, you weren't writing this. You weren't writing.
I was still sepia.
You were still sepia. Yeah. So yours was a little more dark.
It was darker because they didn't have the snark.
And so everybody else's was like that. And I'm reading it and I'm just going, huh. And so finally, I said, one of you said, I think it was you who said, why don't you just platoon F it?
Yeah, do it the way you write platoon F. Just write it.
And I'm like, what do you mean? I really? And he was like, yeah. I said, like over the top. I said, but it's urban fantasy, so we can't really have like, And I was just like, well, if I did that, it's going to be kind of racy, pervy, adult,
so what?
Some juvenile humor.
It's you writing, which is the key.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm basically a pervy juvenile humor adult. Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Well, it's true. I'm not gonna, hey, I'm proud of it. I don't care. And so, and so that's when I said, really, I can do that? And you're like, I don't know, try it. So what I did was I wrote the merging,
right? And
then I came to you and I said, okay, give me some of your readers, 20 of your readers who don't know me.
Yeah, I remember that,
Yeah, and let's throw this at them and see what they think. And 19 of them came back and said, this is fantastic, this is great, whatever. And then I was like,
what did they say? It was too gross or something?
No, the last person was just like, it's too pervy, I think, or something like that. And I was just like, oh, well, that's just the way it is. But the other 19 people really liked it. And then there was another person who reached out to me. Her name was Subi Doosan. And she reached out to me and said, hey, I just read this thing and this is really fun. And so she started telling a whole bunch of her romance people about it, which kind of hurt because they got labeled into PNR. Yeah. It's not PNR. It's more like PNP, paranormal pervert.
It's your own genre. I think you created your own genre within urban fantasy.
Right? Yeah, I kind of did. And then it's interesting that you say that, because then I've gone to conferences and I've had other authors who have come up to me and said, I read your books and that's what I wanted to do. And so they started writing a lot like I do.
Yeah, because they felt the freedom to do so, because probably prior to you, to my knowledge, there aren't, within the urban fantasy world, not many authors, I don't know any author that writes that way. Before you started with the
there's a lot of comedy. There's a lot of comedy authors. I mean, there's John Hart and Rick Maltieri.
It's comedy, but it's not comedy with adult humor type.
In the way that I do it, right. But who knows? Maybe there are. I just never saw it.
We just don't know. Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because it's like I never saw it. So somebody might come along and say, well, this guy does it, that person does it, this person does it.
Exactly.
And then they're like, your books are just like this person's. I've heard that about Ononakin. That's similar to Terry Pratchett, Robert Asprin, stuff like that. Sure. Platoon F, that's similar to Harry Harrison and stuff like that.
Right.
And I just go, I'm like apparently really good at channeling people I've never read.
I think it's just that collective, it's out there, and you just got to let the stories, tell them. You got to tell the stories that are out there,
Yeah.
And it's going to sound like someone at some point, because we both know there's really nothing new. It's just our take on it.
It's true. And, I was also at one point like, I should maybe put a pen name on this. I should. And finally, I just came to the conclusion, you know what? No, this is what I write. This is what I do. And there are people, like I said, who have written to me, oh, I can't stand this. Or you must be on drugs to write this stuff, whatever, and everything else. And I'm just like, you know what? Here's the bottom line. Right. This is what I write. This is how I write. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Go away.
Well, that just means that they're not the reader for you.
I don't harbor any resentment toward you for not liking it, unless you're going to come at me and blast me for writing the way I do. But this is how I write, and humor is super subjective. Some people love toilet humor. Some people hate it. Whatever. I happen to love it.
It's very subjective.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, we've come to the end. Anything else you want to share with the mob? And I'm sure we have a lot of dysfunctional family here too. So. Anything else you want to share? You can find John's stuff at www.johnplogson.com. All his books are there. So go visit his site and pick up his awesome books. Do you have anything else that's coming out recently?
Well, the 2021 zombie stuff, and that's not pervy.
Right.
So if you're just looking for some, if you're just looking for some fun, and they're fun stories, they were a good time. I wrote that myself, by the way. I didn't have any collaboration.
Right. That was just you, right?
That's the first
series. The first time, right? Yeah.
I've done the first books of, Ian Dex. I wrote on my own before Chris, and then he got involved. And I wrote the first Platoon F before Chris got involved. But this is the first time I said, no, I'm doing the whole thing myself.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's post-apocalyptic, but it's actually a lot of fun. I had a good time and such. So I would say, give that a shot. It's on KU, so it doesn't cost anything. And it does, yes, it's called Vaccine Zombies. So people take the vaccine and they become zombies. But you also have other people who take the vaccine and they become hunters of zombies. So it's just fun. It's not supposed to, it's not intended to be any political commentary on whether you should take the vaccine or not. I believe you should, but that's just me. That's a whole different totally different conversation.
Yeah.
It was just, hey, what would happen if, and then I just couldn't help it. And I wrote all 3 books in like 6 weeks, I think.
Wow.
And something like that. And people like them. So
excellent. All right. So visit John's site. He's got all his books there. And thank you all for being here, guys. I really appreciate you being here. John, I thank you for being here, being our first interviewee. And we're going to call it. And guys, have a great weekend and be uncommon.
Bye.